Suzanne.
Hello and welcome to our morning tailgate draft recap. It was an exciting weekend, especially if you're a football fan, fantasy football. I know a lot of people tuned into it. I think ESPN said they broke the record, or ABC, wherever it was being held. Most viewers watched the first round this year, so props to them. A couple other records being broken, most trades this year, but
Yep.
we are here to recap it. Below us, halfway around the world, the Colts fan himself, the Prime Moose, Tim Hendricks. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Excited. I spent an evening with Bacon watching the draft, hosting the draft show,
Yeah.
and it was exciting. My first draft with the group, so I'm happy to be here and kind of excited to drop a little knowledge on what happened on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Yeah, I could tell you. Thank you again, Tim, for joining us and
Yeah.
joining Chris in his annual. Well, we're gonna have to probably call that like the Chris's annual first round draft or something because he's
There you
done
go.
it the last 3 years, as far as I know.
I think so, yeah.
So speaking of Chris, there he is, the working man, the guy that looks like he's about ready to call some defensive plays or offensive plays. The Molina of the C2C network. Crispy Bacon, how you doing, bud?
Doing good. Yeah, it felt like, at least for the Cowboys side, a lot of defensive players chosen in the draft. We'll have to see how that looks. I mean, there are some offensive players, but mostly defense.
Yep. And just looking over and doing some research, trying to find out the draft grades. Some websites you got to be more realistic, and I know a certain website is geared towards football, so they want to prop up the teams, but not every team had an A minus, A plus, B draft. I mean, we all know, some people fumble a pick or two, and so when you're out looking at those recaps, keep an open mind. But I want to start off today. We'll talk about some trades that happened before the draft and during the draft. But Tim, me and you are kind of the older generation. I mean, Chris, you got your guy, your dad. I'm gonna talk about the Dallas Cowboys for a second here. I think it was either the 6th or 7th round. They have a college scout who called his son and simply asked his son if he wanted to come to work with dad next week. So the
So that
college
video.
scout son got drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. Tim, what would that phone call be like? Your dad calls you and tells you you're going to be working with him.
If my dad called, first of all, I would think it's a little late. It's a little past April 1st. Um, if we're playing football, I would. Gosh, that would be. My biggest critic playing sports was my dad.
Yep.
And if my dad, I'll take it as an honor because him being my biggest critic when I was playing sports, and him to say come work for me, come play for me. I think that'd be a huge honor. Then again, you could also look at it as being a little nepotistic. But it happened in baseball. It happened in baseball because I think Lasorda wasn't Piazza a nepotism pick for the Dodgers too.
Maybe I can't remember.
No, I definitely I would take it as a huge honor to come work with my dad.
Yeah. Chris, how about you? I mean, get that phone call. Hey, you're not only a pro athlete, but you're going to be working for the team your dad works for. So
That would be interesting. It's going to be like take your son to work day every day. Now it's time. You don't want to mess up because your dad had full faith in you. He scouted you throughout your life, and now it's time to show why they picked him.
yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it would be totally honored to make that phone call. And it kind of reminds me, I was watching a lot of clips from the movie Draft Day, and when Cleveland makes it back into pick, and they told the coach to call the running back. I can't think the running back's name at the time, but the coach calls and goes, "Hey, how would you like to play football for your dad's?" And it was all choked up. And granted, that was just acting, but I mean, if you see the video of the Cowboys
Yeah.
pick of that, I mean, even the dad's getting choked up, and rightfully so, he should. And yeah, to be able to play not only professional sports, but where your dad works, or a parent, I guess it could be a mom nowadays, but
Right.
you get that phone call, not from the coach, but from your dad to tell him you're going to be a pro athlete. That's just unheard of. Just breaking now a little bit on the show. The NFL schedule is going to be released around May 11th, so watch out for that.
Yeah,
We definitely will be back on. I don't know if that weekend, but definitely the following weekend for sure. So the scout that in question is
last name's Vaughn.
Yeah, Vaughn. I think it was Chris Vaughn is the scout, and then his son was Dante, I believe, or Deuce. I'm sorry,
Deuce Vaughn.
Deuce.
We got him in the 6th round.
Yep. Deuce Vaughn. That's just a sweet name, Deuce. So, all right. So let's get into the pre-draft. Tim, I know we talked about it, but the trade finally came in. Jets get Aaron Rodgers. So, what's your thoughts on that one?
I like you guys have all said. We were just waiting for it to happen. It seemed like the NFL season wasn't going to start until the Aaron Rodgers deal finally gets started. It seems almost like we weren't getting to the draft. It wasn't. You start wondering when it was going to happen, if it was going to happen. I don't think it was if. It was just more like when. What was the deal? I don't know. I'm fine. Glad it happened. I don't understand. I don't know your guys' take on who won that trade. I think in the long run, I think Green Bay wins that trade because you get that prima donna off your team.
Yep.
I'm making a lot of friends today. I can tell you that. You finally get that guy who probably wanted to draft the entire draft the last 2 years, but didn't. Now he's with the Jets, and we'll see. That's another thing is we're going to see what happens, because in the long run, it's only beneficial to Green Bay because Aaron Rodgers could be gone in a year. Aaron Rodgers could be, and so I think Green Bay gets out like a bandit, even though they lose Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and I know next year's pick, I think 2024, is a second or third round with the consensus that if he plays 65% of the snaps, it becomes a first round. So, Tim, you brought up the diva side of it. Jets are struggling halfway through the season. Let's say they're 3-5, 2-8. Could Aaron Rodgers mysteriously have an injury to? I mean, it would be low of him, and if that does happen, Packers should definitely investigate. But could you see it happening?
I honestly, when we traded for Carson Wentz and had a conditional pick, and we were in a playoff hunt, that's a whole different thing. But if the Jets are floundering, I don't put it past the Jets. I'll be honest. If most teams were like that, I think honestly I would bench him. I'm just that guy. I'm the guy that would say, yeah, if it's a conditional second round, possibly first, I'm dropping the guy. I'm sitting him. I'm going to Keyshawn Johnson him and or Terrell Owens, and he don't play another snap for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, Chris, we talked a little bit last week, Four Bros and stuff. So, what's your thoughts? Who kind of won this Packer Jets Rodgers saga?
I mean, if you're just looking I think the draft is uncertain right now because you
Mhm.
haven't seen him play. But I think overall you would say the Jets did because they did get Aaron Rodgers. Packers did get a quarterback, and I know they have Love, but they're trying to figure out if they need to pay him that 5th-year option. I think they got till Tuesday to do that. Um,
Oh, I bet you he gets paid the 50-year option. Sorry, guys, just moving a couple
yeah,
things around here. So
but I think it's a lot to deal with right now.
yeah,
A lot of uncertainty.
no, and Chris, like you nailed it. I mean, the draft is uncertain right now. It's not like it used to be where, especially if you're a Heisman Trophy winner, you were first 3 pick when me and Tim were growing up. It was like a
Yeah.
guaranteed. Now you win the Heisman and it just doesn't mean nothing anymore.
Well, I mean,
Um,
didn't Bennett get an Heisman? I know he won 2 championships.
who?
Edson Bennett.
I
No, I don't know.
I know
Oh,
it was Bryce Young. Bryce Young had won one.
Okay.
yeah.
I don't remember who won last year.
Right.
Yeah, see, exactly. You don't remember who won last year.
Right. I
Um,
know. And Stenson Bennett, I think the last time a quarterback, well, no, then again, you got Ty Detmer, who won a Heisman and got drafted in
yeah,
the 5th round by Green Bay.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and then you had Tebow. Tebow went in the first, but you also had Gino Torretta. You also had
Caleb Wilson, quarterback of USC, won the Heisman last year.
he's still in. I think he's still at USC though.
Okay.
Yeah,
He didn't come out. I
no, I
don't.
don't think so. No,
All right.
yeah, but exactly, we didn't know who won it last year, and so yeah, so that just doesn't mean like you said, Chris. Now in the draft, a lot of trades happen. I don't think all but every trade did not include one player except for the Phillies trade, who got Swift from the Lions. So it was speculated that it was going to be Henry, but they went with Swift. So Tim, the Eagles getting Swift from the Lions, what's that do for them?
It's reloading at this point. It's from what I heard. As soon as Detroit drafted a running back,
Yeah.
Swift
And the
wanted to be
eighth pick
traded,
overall. I mean,
and it's another running back. It's just a running back in that system. You saw what Swift did last year in Detroit. You're going to see now. You're going to see what Swift does under Sirianni. Um, you saw
one
what
heck of an
Jonathan Taylor
offense.
did. You saw what Jonathan Taylor did under Sirianni. Now you're going to see what Swift does under Sirianni.
Yep.
Yeah, it's reloading at this point in Philadelphia.
Yep. Chris, Swift going to the Eagles. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm surprised on that. Like Tim said, we got the news today or sometime in the last few days that once they got a running back, he wanted out and he got out. I think a lot of people figured that uh, Henry wasn't going to go anywhere, but
Yeah.
it was kind of a question mark. I mean, you're just replacing one running back with another. I don't know if that's a big move, but
Yeah, I mean, time will tell. I mean, like Tim said, once the Lions made that pick at 8, and drafted a running back, it was just time. I mean, and the Eagles to make the move, like Tim said, they're just kind of reloading. I mean, get another gun in that offensive side there, and we'll get to what they did in the draft because they might be onto something the way they've been drafting lately. So, and then the news came shortly after, maybe before the Rodgers trade. Lamar Jackson signs a nice little deal there. So, Tim, Lamar staying in Baltimore.
I think it's beneficial for both teams. For both teams, for both. He doesn't really have to learn a new system. He's just at this point, he's just basically trying to rerun it back. I really don't think he was getting any phone calls, and I think he understood that he wasn't getting anything. That's just the nature of the beast. I think what hurt Lamar Jackson in the long run is he had no agent. I think if he had an agent, I think we'd be talking. We may be talking that Lamar might have been in Houston, or Lamar might have been with a team that needed a quarterback. And Baltimore keeps their rifle. It's beneficial for both, they both, one got a big payday and the other one got their Heisman Trophy winner back.
No, Chris.
Yeah.
Lamar staying in Baltimore. What's that do for Baltimore?
I mean, it's good that Lamar is back with the Ravens. I think that relationship's kind of strained though, financially probably. Maybe not with the coaches, but with management. And when the next deal comes in 5, 6 years possibly, it's going to be harder to make that negotiation.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think Baltimore did the right thing. I think Lamar minus the agent probably hurt himself, like Tim said. We probably talk about him going somewhere else. And that might have been the Ravens' ploy is, okay, fine, you go negotiate your own contract. That's why they didn't tender him the full franchise tag.
But I'm looking it up here that Lamar is one of 7 players that don't have an agent.
Yep. Out of how many players? So, but also, rumors are flying. I think ESPN has reported Antonio Brown's talking about coming out of retirement and joining the Ravens. So you get Odell on one side, Brown on the other side. Can the ball be passed around between the two? So that'll be exciting to see here. So, all right, guys, let's get into it. You guys covered the first day draft, had a lot of good, bad, shocking things to say.
Yeah, it did.
What's up? Why did Levis drop so far? I mean, Tim, there's a lot of reports out there that it was a toe, it was some Reddick stuff, it was his interview process. So why do you think Levis dropped?
I think the reason, and I think I brought up the toe. I didn't know about the toe until after the first day.
Yep.
I think we talked about it backstage yesterday. I'm not quite sure. And I got Bob about the toe, and you brought up the interview process. I'm telling you that at the combine is a huge thing.
Yep.
He could have problems reading the defense. He could probably have problems reading anything. And at this point, anything. I couldn't understand it. Like we were talking before, somebody who's projected to be in the top 5, one of the top 4 quarterbacks. He technically was a top 4 quarterback to go in the draft.
Yeah.
But to have 4 quarterbacks possibly going 1, 2, 3, 4, and then all of a sudden you've got your quarterback, you've got Levis going 34th or 35th it was 35th to the Titans. It was an absolute shock to watch that guy free fall. It wasn't something we were expecting. I think Bacon and I don't know how many times we questioned it, but we understood that.
You take him here. You take him here.
You take him here. We were I don't know how many we were thinking Minnesota was going to take him at the 23rd pick. We figured Tennessee was going to take him at the 11th. Then we started getting to the point was like, who are we going to talk about jumping in back into the first round to go after him again? Yep. And nobody came back in. At this point, he's arrogant. You can see it just the way he acts sometimes. He's a quarterback. Quarterbacks are supposed to be arrogant. They're supposed to be fighter pilots. They're supposed to have the ego, but maybe his ego is a little too big. Maybe that's what it is. Who knows at this point?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was shocked Minnesota didn't take him at 23. Seattle, the pick before them. Tampa Bay, the pick before that. So there's three teams that passed on him that should have taken him, and then and then the Titans get him in the second round, which was kind of boggling, but they must not be sold on Willis that much that they drafted last year. But like you said, excuse me, like you said, quarterbacks are supposed to have that ego, arrogance to them, and a lot of people were feeling sorry for him. But I can tell you one thing:
I wasn't.
I saw leaning on him. I ain't feeling sorry for him.
I'm
So,
not. I'm not feeling
um,
sorry one
No.
bit for him.
yeah. So, all right. Before we get into each team, Tim, how do you feel the Colts did?
Well, we I like it. To be honest, we had a nice mixture of draft picks.
Oh, you liked it because you got the homer of the homer pick.
I did. I like the homer pick. I can't argue. When your first player is from the University of Florida, and the guy you kind of wanted to lobby for like the beginning, and your last guy is from Northern Michigan University, good D3 school up in Marquette.
Yep.
We addressed a lot of needs. We addressed the quarterbacks. We addressed the wide receivers. We addressed the linemen that we needed. We addressed the cornerbacks. I mean, we had a fulfilling draft. I think, I think I've seen it where they're anywhere between an A minus, an A plus, and a couple sites, like you said.
Yeah.
But from A minus to B plus to a B, I'm like, I don't argue with that because we filled holes. We filled the holes that we needed to fill, and it was about time to see Chris Ballard not pull a Ryan Grigson. Grigson kind of scared me, and we questioned what Chris Ballard was going to do after we haven't drafted a decent quarterback in 2 years, and I'm happy with what we get with what happened.
Yep. Chris, Cowboys. Are you happy as a fan of what they did? A little upset? What are you looking at?
I'm unsure. I mean, there's a lot of. I don't feel like we filled a lot of the needs. I feel like it was mostly defensive needs, but maybe that's what we needed most out of everything. And I'm sure that we're gonna get some more players in undrafted free agency, but I just feel like it was more defensive, and I think we should have just spread the draft around.
Okay. Yeah, for the Vikings, I don't know. I'm kind of incomplete right now, and I probably say that every draft because the draft is so you're just unsure of. I mean, yes, they went out and got one of the top receivers in Addison to pair up with Jefferson, paired up with Hawkinson. Was it a need that we needed? Probably not. Could have went with Levis. Could have went with Porter. Could have traded out of the pick. So I feel incomplete right now. I mean, later on in the draft, yeah, they win some needs. They've got a quarterback from BYU, which if you compare him to Steve Young, because I know that comparison is coming out. The best quarterback from BYU, Steve Young.
Wait, you mean not Jim McMahon?
Yeah, exactly. So I say the Vikings are incomplete right now. Again, time will tell. Maybe week one I'll have a different opinion on this draft class, but I mean, yeah, they scored big with Addison, and people are saying, well, if they scored big, how can you get it incomplete? I think they could have. I don't know. I think they could have gone elsewhere. I don't think a receiver was that big of a need, but again, late in the draft, first round, you take the best player available, or you trade out, and that's why we're sitting here, and we're not in the war rooms. Even though I would love to be in any war room come draft day, just to sit in the corner, be a little fly on the wall.
That's what I said too. It's like it'd be cool just to sit there and be like,
yeah,
you don't have to talk, just listen.
Oh yeah, just sit there and listen. Yeah,
it.
exactly. Listen to the phone calls and stuff. So let's get into it. Into some draft grades here. Just pulled up a random site. We'll go with sporting news here. Tim, I know you have a different one on your phone. that you're following. Pittsburgh Steelers. They Sporting News grades them an A+ draft. The first pick was Broderick Jones, offensive tackle. I don't have the colleges that they're from. And then they came back in the second round to Porter Jr. His dad, of course, played with Pittsburgh. So, Tim, Pittsburgh get the A+ grade. What's your thoughts on how they drafted?
I think they did well. I think that's a pretty much consensus at this point. You got the offensive tackle out of Georgia, like you said, Broderick Jones, and then adding Porter. That's just going to bring in put more butts in the seats when you've got name recognition like Porter. But then you add two kids out of Wisconsin. You add two defensive players from Wisconsin. I think they're trying to tap the TJ Watt, JJ Watt well over there at Wisconsin. They're trying to really start to push because they have to against the team like Cincinnati and Baltimore coming back in with Lamar again, like we said earlier. I like the draft. I like their draft. I hope we see them this year in Indy. But then again, we suck against Pittsburgh, so it doesn't really matter. No, it's a good thing. I think and they get to go play with Tomlin, and Tomlin knows how to coach these players. So I think you got a really good draft class there.
Yeah, and they're going back to kind of building up that defense what Pittsburgh is known for. So because 4 of the 6 picks have been defense. So Chris, Steelers grade A+ here by Sporting News. What do you think Pittsburgh did?
I think they got that, A+ grade or A- grade because of Joey Porter, because of what his dad did. And maybe they did that because, too, they feel the need where, to help out TJ Watt and all of that. So,
All right. The team that's probably the talk of the town now, number 2 here by Sporting News, another A+ grade, which I think myself and Tim, Chris, we can all agree on. This team really did it. The Eagles, and that A+ grade could have came from when they traded for Swift to reload, but first few picks was the D tackle Jalen Carter, who dropped a little bit, edge rusher Nolan Smith, and then offensive tackle Tyler Steen. So Tim, Eagles A+. I agree with it. I don't know about you.
I can't. I think we were like last year. I think last year it was the Eagles made such a huge thing. It made such a huge splash in the draft. The Jets made a huge splash in the draft last year. Whoever their GM is, I think every GM, every team in the NFL right now wants to clone the GM in Philadelphia because this guy's a guru. This guy knows what he's doing, and he loves Georgia. I'm telling you right now, if you want to play in the NFL and you want to play for a team that's going to probably be perennial NFC champions, go to Georgia because you're going to get drafted by Philadelphia. At this point, they took 3 people in their first 3 people from the Georgia Bulldogs in their first 5 picks this year. They took 2 last year. It's at this point it's going to be the Philadelphia Bulldogs. It's because they tend to do everything they need to. I'm sorry, but that team. It's difficult to say when a team was scary last year, and then we turned around and got scarier. At this point, we're looking at a Kansas City Philadelphia Super Bowl again, just by the way things go.
Yep, Chris, your division.
Yeah.
Eagles A+ grade. I know you want to give them an F, but it's hard to. What do you think about the Eagles?
Maybe a B, C. I don't know. I feel like they did okay in the draft. They filled positions where they needed to, but again, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, but with that pipeline that they're building in Georgia, like Tim said, 2 last year, 3 this year. all on the defensive side of the ball. So, yeah, if you're a defensive player and Georgia's where you want to go, you're probably going to get drafted by the Eagles enough. So, good luck to them. The Colts. Sporting News has them as an A+ grade. Low A for me, maybe B+. Tim, this is your team, the Colts. I know you're probably happy with a lot of their picks, but I mean, grade wise, what do you think?
I think it's a mid B. I think we could have gotten a little better players. I know earlier I said I was happy with the draft, and believe me, I am. You know, it's my only question mark, and this is the Homer pick that got me to where I was. I keep hearing that Anthony Richardson's a project. We got at this point we've got 4 quarterbacks on the roster. So what kind of a project is he going to be? We filled the needs, and we filled the needs that we needed. I think it's a B though. I really do. I don't think it's an A+. I think the reason why they're going with A+ is because we got the best guy from the combine. And I think that's what really drives that A+. Outside of that, it's still a B. It's still a B draft. If we got Levis, even it didn't matter if we had Levis or we got a different Hendon, that kid from Tennessee, Hooker. Yeah, we don't need a hooker on our team. We already got a drug addicted owner. We don't need a hooker on the team. No, I'm happy with the draft. I'm hoping it goes from a B to B+ in the next 5 years to an A+ draft. I hope we live up to that draft grade that Sporting News gave us.
So, week 1, who's the starting quarterback?
Huh?
Do you give Richardson the keys week 1, or do you?
We don't need to. That's the great thing about we have an Uncle Rico and Gardner Minshew and Nick Foles. We don't need to. I don't at this point. Okay. I'm not going to go jumping out on a limb and saying Brock Purdy starts week 8. It depends. If we're not in the hunt, if we're not in the hunt for a playoff spot, I think maybe he starts playing week 13, week 14, 15.
Okay. Gotcha. And also, it's been reported too that the Colts ownership has come out and said Richardson was their pick if they had pick 1 wherever, that was their guy. I don't know how much to believe in that because they're not going to say no our guy, and Did
you see what our owner said going into day 2 of the draft? He says,
no.
Well, since Will Levis is there, should we take him in the second?
Yeah.
Oh.
Are you
no type thing? So
I think the Perkins hit a little hard.
Yeah. Colts with the A+ grade, what do you think?
I think they got that because of Richardson.
Yeah.
I guess it's a good, draft pick, but I don't know.
I mean, they got, they filled needs like Tim said. They got a couple tackles, a corner, safety, a couple corners actually. So they kind of, did the old, okay, we're going to fill out everything. So a B, I say. Some of these teams will just go by with the grades. I don't know if we really need to talk about it. If you guys want to, stop me. Giants on Sporting News got an A grade. Had a few picks. It looks like they spread it around. We'll go to the north here with the B, which Messeron was on. They got an A grade too here. They went out and got a big offensive tackle and Darnell Wright. Then they came back and went defensive up until they took a running back, Johnson and Taylor, but they focus more on defense. And
if you want to see something, watch. And I started seeing this. I started seeing a little bit more of this after the Zach Pickens trade. That they were talking about how the defensive line now in Chicago is going to be dangerous because they've got. Both of them have such explosive first moves. They were so underrated coming into the draft. I think Chicago might be a little scary this year, and that's a nice, good draft. That's a good, solid draft. I think B might be a little light. I think that's a B plus draft. I think
Yeah.
B is a light, maybe an A minus. It's a
Well, I'm
low.
sorry if I did say B. They give them an A. So
Oh, okay. Well, then it's
yeah,
probably right. An
yeah,
A minus draft isn't bad.
yeah. Being that the North, yeah, they're gonna be scared. They're gonna get that defense that and that's another thing. Like Steelers, Bears teams have always had good defenses, so they got to get back to that. Next team, number 6, also the North, the Lions. They got an A grade. I don't know. I mean, they went out and got the Gibbs, the running back, early. They came back and got a Jack Campbell, linebacker. They went out and got their quarterback of the future and Hendon Hooker later in the game. I don't know. I could see this being a low B grade for myself. Lions are going to be scary as it is, so
I
if
think
you can live up to that A grade, to me,
I
they're
think
the.
I think getting Hooker in the third round might have been the steal of the draft at this point.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. It probably was the steal of the draft.
And again, another quarterback that's not expected to play right away. Golf is as bad as he's been healthy. So
Well, there was rumors that Hooker could have went in the first round, and,
Yep.
and he went straight into the third.
Yep. That's the one thing with these mock drafts is it's all talk. And nobody knows exactly what they're doing. Cincinnati Bengals got a C or A grade. I'm sorry, from Sporting News. Big edge rusher Miles Murphy. So it looks like they kind of went defense. They took a punter around. So a gimme pick there. I don't know. So Kansas City Chiefs, another team reloading. They got an A grade. They went out and got the defensive kid, edge rusher. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. Reload on receiver.
That's okay. That's okay. Neither did Bacon on
I
Thursday
didn't
night.
hear that. I was like, I'm not even going
No,
to
I
try.
mean they focused a lot on the defensive side, which we've always said they needed. They've always reload on offense, and
Yeah.
Like you said, Tim, could possibly be a rematch of last year's Super Bowl. So Baltimore Ravens got an A grade, picked up Flowers, the receiver, linebacker Trenton Simmons, edge rusher Tavares Robinson. So another team that kind of rebuild their defense a little bit. Tennessee Titans. I don't know what's up with Tennessee, what they're doing, but they got Will Levis. They got A minus grade. That's probably why, because a quarterback that was predicted to go top 5 drops to 35th, 36th. You pick them up. But they went a lot of strictly offense, no defensive players drafted. So they're going to rebuild that offense and hopefully keep Henry around, keep him happy. So Houston Texans, talk about big splashes. Here's where the big splash came. CJ Stroud, second pick. Then they turn around and took Will Anderson Jr. Tim, thoughts on that big move?
I hate to, again. This is where it's my division, and I hate to see it in my division. But Houston needed to do something.
Yep.
Houston. I think Bacon and I talked about this on draft day that Houston had to go get their quarterback, had to get their name. But we also understood that they had to get this big guy who's a big leader, especially coming out of Alabama. They needed to get a leader, a young leader to rejuvenate. And we got D'Amico Ryans, and D'Amico Ryans loves linebackers. And they had. I was shocked. I wasn't expecting it. I think the rest of us wasn't expecting it. I think we were expecting Arizona to take Will Anderson, and at that point, when Arizona traded away that pick, I think my jaw hit the floor. I didn't expect that. I think that's that could be an A+. It come in 6 years. That could be an A+ draft.
Yeah. And the thing is, they're the first team since the old Washington Redskins. I think they have back-to-back picks in the top 5.
I know Indy did back in '91 when we
but I
did.
think Washington was the last one.
Yeah, because we had picked Entman and then we picked up Coriat in the 1-2 in that year.
So Carolina draft, they went out and all but 2 picks for defense. Bryce Young, first overall pick, and then they come back and take a receiver, Jonathan Mingo, and then DJ Johnson as an edge rusher. So Carolina rebuilding, I don't think they'll be a factor, but speaking of Carolina, does Bryce Young get the nod week 1, Tim?
Yep. I honestly think he does. I do. And the thing is, that team went what, 7-9 or
after they traded McCaffrey away.
Yeah, after they traded McCaffrey, they ended up getting. They could have made the playoffs. And the thing is, we're talking about a wide open NFC South. We're a wide open. You've got no Brady.
Exactly.
You've got a team. You've got the Saints who are trying to rebuild. You've got the Carolina Panthers who are coming in. You've got the Atlanta Falcons. You got when your playoff team was who? The Atlanta Falcons. Who was the playoff team that came out of the South? Wasn't Tampa Bay?
Wasn't it? Was it Tampa?
It was Jacksonville.
No, that's the AFC South. The NFC South.
Was it Tampa?
Let's see. Hold on.
We'll have to look at that one.
I'll look it up.
But the thing is, you've got a wide. Right now, you have a wide open NFC South.
Yeah. No.
Why not? Why not
start our predictions come in, and we can
think about it. Next year, the NFC South, all 4 teams are going to have different starting quarterbacks than what they had the year before.
Yep. Seattle got a B grade. They had a lot of picks, a lot of needs they filled. Denver Broncos without a first overall pick, first 2 picks, I think. Denver got a B grade. So Denver, trade those assets away for Russell Wilson. My team.
So Tampa Bay was a playoff team.
Yeah, Tampa.
Were they?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At 15 here, Minnesota Vikings had a B+ grade. I mean, Addison, again, that probably would jump them up to a B+ because, I mean, one of the good receivers, pair them up with Jefferson. They come back with the back-to-back defensive back in Blackman and Ward, defensive tackle and Roy. Then they get their quarterback from BYU, Jalen Hall, who, again, another guy who's going to sit behind a quarterback that can stay healthy. Will probably be the third guy because they'll have, Madison or I'm trying to think of the backup quarterback now. And then they drafted their last pick was Dwayne McBride, so running back. So we'll see what they do there. Cleveland at 16 got a B grade. The Saints got a B grade. Miami Dolphins got a B- grade. They didn't have many picks. They could have, tried to maneuver some. The Rams also got a B- grade. Buccaneers.
The Rams got a B- grade for picking up Stenson out of the 3rd round, out of the 4th round.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. Tampa kind of went big. First 4 picks, it looks like were pretty big guys. Defensive tackle, offensive tackle, edge rusher, linebacker. So the Vegas Raiders, who another team that thought we'd take Will Levis, got a B- grade. They went out and got a rusher, a couple defensive guys there. So be interesting to talk with James on Sportsman and see what his thoughts are.
Mm-hmm.
San Fran, they got a B- grade. They took a kicker. I know they didn't have a first or second pick. I don't know what round that was in, but
the kicker was in the 3rd round.
What?
Yep. The kicker out of Michigan. Jake Moody out of Michigan.
I had kickers going like 6th, 7th round, but
Chris, in fantasy, your first overall pick was the defense for the Bills.
I'm telling you, Jake Moody's no Sebastian Janikowski.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but again, the Niners, all they had to do is reload. I mean, that offense is stellar. That defense stays healthy. I mean, why not waste a pick on a kicker? I guess, but it'll be interesting to see what they do. See, one, who their quarterback's going to be week one, because you got Purdy coming off an injury. You got Trey Lance, who they're talking to Minnesota for Cousins. I don't know how well that rumor is going around, but um, we'll see. Atlanta got a B minus grade from Sporting News.
Because they got the running, they got Bijan, they got the running back.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the
And then
reason.
they went
I'll be
back
honest.
to
That's
offensive tackle, and they're going to be a team. I ain't gonna say scary, but then we got the Cowboys. With the C grade, Chris here, 2014 Sporting News. Yeah, they went defense, hyped up that defense again. They went out and got a tight end, and then of course, as we talked about earlier, got Deuce Vaughn, running back, to replace Zeke. So,
Or did he replace Zeke?
yeah. So,
There's
Chris,
rumors of Zeke coming back.
grade? Was that C grade good enough for you for Cowboys there, or?
For right now, yeah, but there's also talks that Zeke might come back, but they're just talks.
All right, just don't let Chris handle your books because
I see where that led.
Yeah, yeah. Buffalo Bills got a C graded. Another team that was looking for a stud running back, didn't make a move, but they went.
Really, you guys got to. They got to see on. They got to see.
They got to see.
Mine, they've got an A minus.
Wow. See, that's why depending on who you talk about, I mean,
I truthfully think the B. I think it's a B draft because of Kincaid.
Yeah. Yeah. And that just helps out their weapons there in Buffalo, and plus their defense is still rock solid. You put a good running back in that offense, I think you're talking Super Bowl after Super Bowl again with them.
Put Zeke in Buffalo and see what happens.
Oh God, Zeke, Cook, Henry. I mean, all right, Jacksonville got a C grade. Another team that's going to be scary, I think, this upcoming year because they get Ridley back from suspension. They went out and got a big offensive tackle, Anton Harrison. They got some weapons for Lawrence. Went out and got some good defensive guys. This I tell you, they could be a scary team. Then they went out and one of their last picks was Derek Parrish. He's listed here as a fullback, edge rusher, and a defensive tackle. So it'll be interesting to see where they use him at.
Holy smokes!
Yeah.
When was the last time a fullback had been drafted in the NFL?
Well, there was a couple here, but yeah, I mean, a lot of teams don't use the fullback per se anymore like they used to. So Jacksonville, I think, with that C grade, I think it was a lot to need. I think that's another team we're going to look back in 3 years and be like, hey, remember what they did in 2023?
I was surprised that they went offensive line and didn't go after Nolan Smith from Georgia. But
yeah, I know you were big on Nolan Smith this whole draft, trying to figure out where he was going to go.
And the thing is, I was so hyped on him because I remember keep watching it, going, I think John kept thinking, Georgia's only defense is only good if Nolan Carter or Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith are on the field together. And next thing you know, I'm like, Nolan Smith is this. Yeah, I understand. And I think Isaiah brought it up on the show when on draft day show that he had a torn meniscus. Even if he even sits for 3-4 games and is ready by midseason, Nolan Smith could find himself being the defensive rookie of the year at this point.
Yeah. The Green Bay Packers come in at 27 here with a C minus grade, according to Sporting News. They went out, got defense right away, and then came back, loaded up with this is weird, a tight end, a receiver, tight end. And then they went out and got Chris's quarterback. I know he was throwing around the idea that Packers are going to draft a quarterback, and
they drafted a kicker.
Yeah, they drafted a kicker late. But they got a solid kicker there. I mean, maybe his time's coming up, but
here's the funny thing is the whole knock was that Green Bay wasn't ever drafting any receivers or any tight ends for Aaron Rodgers. And they turned around and drafted three wide receivers and 2 tight ends.
Yep.
And I think and I almost want to go back and look to see if those were the draft picks that they got from the Jets.
Yeah, we could definitely look at that. I only see two receivers, 2 and 2.
They got one.
I see the third one.
Yeah, the one from Charlotte.
Yep.
Let me see what I can.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see how they build that team. Aaron Rodgers.
And they drafted a quarterback. Yeah, I saw that.
Yep, 28th. The Chargers come in at a C- grade.
I think that's a terrible grade. Honestly, I think that's a bad grade.
Yeah, it looks like they got a couple weapons there for Herbert.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, who's making up these grades? It'd be interesting, like we've said over and over, to go back and relive these. New England Patriots at 29 come in with a C- grade.
I can't be happier. I can't
be happy. Yeah, and again, it looks like I'm looking at it. They went. I will say, in basketball terms, they went small because they took a defensive tackle and then they went like safeties and guards, receiver, punter, kicker. They got a couple big guys, but they went small in my opinion. So
I think they got another steal in that draft with Christian Gonzalez. I think Christian Gonzalez should have went a lot quicker than we did. Yeah. I think New England got a nice little pick there. And as much as I hate to say it, but I think they got him in the 17th pick.
17th pick, okay. So
I thought he should have gone.
The draft
he should have went a little earlier.
Yeah.
He's no Devin Witherspoon.
Yeah.
And I love Devin Witherspoon. That's the reason why Detroit traded out of that pick, was because Seattle took Devin Witherspoon.
Yeah. All right. So now we get into, as I say, the grade and the team here probably like figures. The 30th team, according to Sport Noodle, the Washington Commanders, they got a D grade. Washington just doesn't seem to get with it. And they, outside of the running back, they went big everywhere, I think. Well, in the corner, Emmanuel Forbes, but it looks like they went big everywhere. So they're trying to get the meat back there. Another team that was built on defense, that's kind of struggled over the years.
Well, here's the funny thing is you do that and then you don't pick up the extension on Chase Young.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
At 33, Arizona had a D grade.
It's
again
Arizona.
Another team kind of trying to figure out what they're doing.
You want to see the funny thing is you just called them a D grade, but my app has them an A.
See, how can they go? That's the whole thing is A, D. That's just like talking about Will Levis, projected to be a top 5 pick, falls. NFL draft, like we said, is always good to come around, and it's stressful, and it's good to see. And then with the 32nd team, the Jets come in at a D grade.
Of course.
And the thing is they pulled a Green Bay. They didn't get no weapons. But, of course, they signed everybody
Okay,
they signed all their weapons. So,
But that's funny because they got Aaron Rodgers and they didn't sign anybody. Green Bay doesn't have Aaron Rodgers and they signed some people.
Yeah, but the Jets brought in a lot of weapons pre-Rodgers.
And then they drafted 2 linemen, one out of Wisconsin and one out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so I could possibly see, of course, that grade could probably go up depending on how Rodgers plays. So, So overall, again, draft season is always fun to watch. Tim, I know it's way early. We got a few minutes left, but coming out of the draft, some teams that are going to catch your eye and possibly, when you go to do our predictions might play a factor?
Well, I know you're going to ask this question, and I thought about it before I took my nap this morning, and then this afternoon, and it just went right off my head. It's definitely it's just on the draft alone. You look at Philadelphia and you look at Houston.
Yep.
What they've done. Philadelphia didn't need to draft anybody. Truthfully, they could have traded all their picks to the Tennessee Titans and took Derrick Henry, and they'd still be the best team in the NFC.
Yep.
Houston did exactly what they were supposed to. They picked. They thought it was a Chinese. They thought it was a Chinese menu. Took a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B, and a little bit from column C. And they made the splashes like they're supposed to do when you're high in the draft like that. So if I'm going to say, it's definitely going to be Houston and Philadelphia.
Okay. Chris, how about you? A couple teams that after the draft you're going to, well, this team might do something. So
maybe the Jets, maybe the Jets and Eagles, but they've always been doing stuff. So, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, for me, Houston definitely, because they've been a train wreck for the last couple of years. To see they come in making a couple splashes. The Bears and Lions, just from a North standpoint, going to be scary. I mean, Lions are already picked to win the division this year by a lot of experts, and they just went out and did what they did. Eagles reloaded. The Jets, of course, but yeah, it's going to be, Carolina, another team too that's going to be. I tell you what, but Jacksonville, I think Jacksonville's taking a big step forward. Tim, I know they're in your division, but Jacksonville is going to be a very scary team, I think, this coming up year. So, all right, guys, with that being said, we got a few minutes left. We also, before we get into our final thoughts, guys didn't catch it. Oregon Cougars had their Week 2 game last night, brought to you by C2C. You can find it on Facebook. You can find it on YouTube. Tough loss. They went in kind of shorthanded, but I know Coach Hoffman had that team ready and fired. They were in Utah 16-6. Chris was there, or Chris was backstage doing the production. Jay Mack and Sarge were there doing the play-by-play. And I tell you what, if you don't watch the game, just go look at the view that the guys had. So that was a pretty nice view. Week 3 coming up at home, right, Chris?
Yeah, home opener.
At home finally. So, all right. So, Tim, final thoughts.
Thank everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for who got a chance to watch us, watch Bacon and I, and mess around, showed up, and a little bit with Isaiah on draft day. That was huge. It was early morning for me. As you can see, Bacon had 8 pots of coffee, so he was all ready to go. Me, on the other hand, was kind of just floating through. Stay tuned. We got some great shows. Brandon and I will be back for Rankum on Tuesday.
Yep.
Keeping it real, or keep creeping it real on Saturday, right? No, Saturdays? No, Thursdays.
Thursdays.
On deck every Saturday. Beyond the ropes, between the ropes. I swear I'm at this point the comic relief for this group. I'm starting to think that my M&Ms that I get paid with are spoiled. But keep watching us, and it's my pleasure to be here with these guys. So
yep. All right, Chris, final thoughts.
Yeah, thanks for everyone for watching today and the draft coverage. It's fun to cover the draft. It's going to be a fun season, and make sure to tune into Coast to Coast for all of our great shows.
Yeah, exactly. Keep tuning in, watching. Like Tim said, Between the Ropes Tuesday, C2C with myself and Tim on Tuesday, Sportsman on Wednesday, along with the Cougars Den on Wednesday, Creeping It Real Thursdays. Who knows? We might get a Kicking It show coming up. Just keep checking us out every day, every week. Again, you guys are watching. Throw out some ideas you want. You want to see a video game. You want to see a trivia show. You want to see us talk about movies. Throw it out there. we got the guys that can do it. So
You want to talk about Bacon's dating life? Then we'll do it. We'll do it, Sean. We'll do cooking it with bacon.
There you go.
Exactly. We got ideas. I know Messerow's got his Chicago-based show because he's a big Chicago fan. So hopefully that comes back this season. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank Tim for joining us, Crispy Bacon for doing what he does, and myself, Big B. We'll see you next couple weeks for Morning Tailgate. If not, we'll see you on Deck Saturday. Have a good one.